The Eastern Cape Department of Education is today launching its Second Chance Matric program. The department is also expected to outline its provincial infrastructure plan. For more, let's bring in our reporter, Lubabalo Dada. He's live for us in the Eastern Cape, monitoring this story. Lubabalo, very good morning to you. So, in terms of the extent of the damage to schools, how many schools were damaged during, as a result of storms over the, let's say, December-January period?
Well, thank you very much, Plain, and good morning to the viewers at home. There are about 103 schools that were damaged by the storms that occurred in December and January this year, and most of the schools that were affected were in the OR Tambo region. But to tell us more about the plans that the department is having in terms of fixing those schools, I am joined by the MEC, Fundile Gade. Sir, thank you very much for your time. I understand that today you are here to outline the plans for infrastructure program here in the province, as well as the Second Chance Matric program. Let us start with the infrastructure program. Talk to us in terms of how big is the problem of the infrastructure backlog first, before we go to the plans.
We have a historical problem of the backlog of the infrastructure in the province that amounts to about 80 billion rands, so to speak, which I doubt that government can have it in the main. But we just needed an innovation in terms of how do we mitigate that. Hence, you would find us realigning, emerging some of the schools, rationalizing some of them, precisely because, by the way, we should have not have some of the schools in existence, precisely because of their magnitude, their insignificance in the system itself. We are going towards building more bigger schools, but fewer in number. Precisely because we have noticed that we have got plus minus 5,260 something schools in the province, which is quite a huge number. Amongst those 5,000 plus schools, 1.8 of them are small unviable schools, which are a thorn in the flesh of the provincial performance system. So we needed to look very closely to that and be able to respond accordingly, because we needed to align the infrastructure plans with the curriculum activities, the output that will require from a progressive learning environment that is needed in the province, so that we can upscale the performance of the province, both qualitatively and quantitatively.
All right, can you tell us about the schools that were damaged by the storms now? Give us an update in terms of have you managed to fix them? If so, how many of those that have been fixed?
We are one of those provinces that have been hit quite very hard by the climate change, so to speak, precisely because my observation is that from 2020 up until now, we have got from time to time disaster schools that the provincial government will have to find funds to rebuild, reconstruct those schools that were not part of the plan of the infrastructure plan, both in the Department of Education and as well from the Department of Public Works. Unfortunately, this time around, we have got 103 schools that have been hit by the storm in a space of 5 months back. Initially, there were 57 of them, and we approached the Department of Public Works and resource them with a budget of 166 million rands. They finalized all the procurement processes, and we have actually appointed the contractors. They are on site, and we're being renovating some of those schools. But in the midst of that, there comes another disaster that takes them from 57 to 103. Again, last week we had to ensure that we go back to the drawing board, request the provincial treasurer for the additional funding, which we have been granted, start a process of procurement, which we have finished, And now we are allocating contractors to go back and do the work for the extra ones from 57 to 103, so that in a shorter space of time we can be able to get them out. So that's why today we are launching that plan, we are launching that program, Sakisidima, so that we can be able to respond to any problem that might constrain the Department of Education in arriving to its own targets.
Can you talk to us about the program that you are launching today?
We have developed a plan wherein we have categorized those schools. There are ones that do not need major renovations, which will require not that much of highest sophisticated contractors, which would require just localized entities, small SMEs in the province, so that you can be able to respond to that. But there are those that would require a bit of engineers from public works and also a bit of bigger companies, precisely because of the magnitude of the work that needed to be done. We have allocated them and categorized them differently. And also Public Works have given us an assistance to that, because our intentions is to in-source now the capacity of the state and build Public Works as a center of infrastructure development in the provincial government space as a long-term plan. So continuously outsourcing that function into independent and private entities in a way creates a problem for the government's capacity in the long plan. So we are responding to that as well. But centrally to that, how do you ensure that you ring-fence and use preferential procurement policies in government to ensure that you recycle the economy of the province in the crisis itself, so that you don't just build schools. Tomorrow you have got a crisis of unemployment of young people, whilst you should have utilized that platform to respond on the multitudes of problems that you have. So it's quite a comprehensive document that does not just talk about building infrastructure, but use infrastructure as a pillar of local economic growth and development of the province within the local municipalities and district municipalities.
You are also here to launch the Second Chance Matric program. Can you also tell us more about that? What does it entail?
We have set as the top management of education in the province, analyze the performance of the province and look at the blind spots and identified our strengths, shortcomings, and we came up with 3 areas that needed to be looked into. One are these kids that have not made into the pass classified progression of learners. One, we want to make a call that they must go back and enroll into their previous registered schools. That's one. 2, those that might have an interest in doing something else but still want to enroll as grade 12s learners through a part-time process, they must be allowed to do that. But lastly is to ensure that we don't leave any kid unattended of the province, precisely because if we do that, you run a risk of populating the social security grant system of government with younger people. So right. We must respond to that.
All right. Thank you very much, MEC Kadia, for that. We have to wrap just because of time. With that, it's back to you in studio.